Did you see that cup of hot coffee getting put on that table by that lovely hand? Another little bumper. Good morning. And yes, I grew hair over the weekend. I can't get a haircut because the salons aren't open. Well, yes, they are. I just can't get in. This is what a lot of people said they were looking like up until last week because they couldn't get their hair cut. My husband was one of them, kept trying to get me to cut his hair. I don't think so. You're not blaming that plug in your scalp on me for the rest of your life. But anyway, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Monday's edition. I can't get this shirt and thing to work right. Of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Loren Michaels Harris. And, you know, the wardrobe and makeup people just aren't doing their job today. Maybe they are. Anyway, welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here. Did you have a good weekend? We did. We slept on the deck during the day, had coolers and margaritas during the night. We had game night, virtual game night with our family, which is always, well, most of the time it's fun. It was fun this week, and I did some yard work and got a lot of work done. What about you? Welcome to today's installment. Like I said, Monday. So excited about our guest today. I want to get started right away because we have a lot of ground to cover. But I do want you to know we are streaming, so no cussing at the screen. You can type in all the cuss words you want. Just don't cuss at the screen because we're live. It's my world you're visiting. We're streaming live actually across Facebook, YouTube, Roku, Android, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV, and of course from our home base out in Phoenix, Arizona, E360 TV. And I want to say hats off, or hair hat off, to my sponsor for the week, which is Symposium.us. Get over to the Apple or to the Google Play Store or the App Store and download the app today. It will allow you to turn your content into cash. It's true, into currency. I've done it over 25 times myself. And as of a month ago, I was Symposium's top earner. I don't know. A lot of people have been running over there, so I may have been dethroned, and that would be a good thing. Everybody is looking for additional ways to supplement their income right now in these uncertain times. So if that is you or someone you know, do yourself a favor and get over and check out Symposium.us. You won't be sorry. Tell them Loren sent you. So today, my guest is Jason Cisneros. He hasn't been here in a minute, not at all during the coronavirus. I heard that he buried himself in ostrich eggs or something, some weird stuff he heard through the grapevine would protect him from the virus, and finally has come out of hiding. So he's here today. And you see on the screen, my screen name today is Big Daddy. You know, some people, when they make requests, you just have to follow through. And Jason wants this name to be what he calls me, and I do my best to. I don't get it, but I love it when you call me Big Pop. But oh wait, that's another one. That's right. That's Todd Special. Let me quit. Okay, you guys. Jason came into my life several years ago, and I will never forget how he rocked the world of the very first Power of We Symposium here in Chicago at the beautiful Stan Mansion. You may remember Stan Mansion because Chera, the owner, and four of her event planning friends were with us just Friday right here on Bathrobe Moment. So yeah, this was at her place in Chicago, and I wanted to share with you because this 5-minute video that we put together gives you a really good look into some of the aspects of the Jason Cisneros, also known as the Bald Avenger, that some of you may not be privy to. We're going to talk about all the things you hear inside this video, as well as some other things involving civil unrest, Misfit Nation, and all the new things happening in the world of Jason right after this message from Jason. So stay put and take a look at this. Now, you know I'm not techie, and it is Monday, but I am clicking as fast as I can. And okay, I didn't forget the audio. Here we go. You're going to love this. Trust me. And go.
Power of Action was chosen for me because that resonates in my own life.
Uh-oh.
The reason why I'm here for these children, to be able to lift them up, to be able to give an example, which is the exact reason why I'm on stage most of the time anyway, is because my life is an example of where you can come from and where you can get to.
Now, if that keeps going like that, we're just going to get the live guy in here. But I want you to see some of him on the stage. I don't know why it's doing that.
And that takes action. It takes strategy. It takes knowing where you want to go, but it takes a lot of action. And there's those moments in life when you're handed a choice and an opportunity. I want you to think about that for just a second. From your own perspective, from your own life, what got you here? The opportunities that you got. Where are you headed? Is there a failure that I could talk about that would be the linchpin to where I am today? Where do we start? I honestly would say that the failure has been, there's multiple failures along the way. And I literally pushed the envelope of not doing, I don't want to do the things that I did yesterday because I'm going to get yesterday's result. And so I know that I have to do things differently today. And inherently in that is going to be the failure embedded in it. There's going to be mistakes that I make. There's going to be corrections. There's going to be measurement. There's going to be the opportunity to shift and change my perspective and to change my approach and to take different actions, use different words, use different thoughts, surround myself with different people. And it's important. I think back to my childhood. My adopted father ended up in prison when I was 17 for attempted murder of me and my mom. Broke my nose 18 times on the way up. And I tried to put myself in the seat that you sit in, some of the stories that I've heard, some of the conversations I've heard, why this thing was put together in the first place. Because nobody back when I was a kid ever would have looked at me and said, that guy's going to be something. Ever. Y'all ever felt that way? It's not true. It's the power of language. It's the power of action. It's the power of the decision that you made to be here. What I hope to share with the kids tomorrow is hope. And, part of leadership is knowing the way, going the way, and then showing the way. And I feel a direct obligation because of the people that believed in me when they shouldn't have, when I was in situations that there was no reason why anybody should have looked at me in the early part of my life and said, okay, this guy is going to be able to do something. But this is my opportunity. People like Tony Robbins that have reached into my life that have said that they believe in me at really key, crucial points in my life. That's if I do this for the rest of my life and I'm able to have this conversation with these kids tomorrow and they hear one word from me that just says, has nothing to do with Jason Cisneros. It has to do with the idea that if that guy can do it, so can I. That's what I hope to get out of tomorrow. Can you do it? Yes or no? Come on, let's take it to another level. This is where life changes. In these moments where you have a choice to act like we did in the past or to break loose and open up. This entire day, the reason why I'm doing this is because you are going to have some amazing content. You've got some amazing people that have shown up here and a ton of energy that has been put into this event just for you. And if you don't want to receive it, that's cool with me. If you want to play small in life, that's okay with me. If you want to think that the people that are around you, that are standing by you, are going to judge you for stepping out and doing something different, that creates a result in life. And it's up to you. That's that choice. What you do with what you have today, what you do with what you're going to do after today, that's up to you. We're here. I'm here to pour everything I got into y'all. Not whether you like me or not. That's not my job. My job is to look back to see where I was in my life and to know what it took for me to get out of it. For me not to end up where my little brother ended up in prison. For me to change the stars for my children. It takes something different. It takes the kind of courage that shows up.
All right. Okay, I love that. Really, really powerful stuff. What a great way to start today. Just let me go ahead and get Jason in here. Hello, Jason. How are you?
What's up, handsome? How you doing?
Not bad. Not bad.
I just want everybody to know that I did. I don't need any financial money for you borrowing my nickname of Big Daddy. I just wanted you to have it today so you could feel what it's like to be me.
Ooh, I'm sifting through so many awesome comebacks right now, but I got to remember I have to come back to this show tomorrow.
Yes,
So I'm
Yes,
carefully throwing them out as we go. Thank you for loaning me your name. And as you see, we think alike because you threw something extra in your screen title today. I'm assuming that's meant for Todd Special.
It's meant for Todd Special. Yeah, I just like everybody to know. He said, Jason, whenever you're out there, whenever you're doing things like live or on television, I just want everybody to know that I look up to you so much and that you're my hero. So I do that for him. I do that for him.
That sounds like some kind of a mental health issue.
Yeah. Well, I think for all of us to know and to hang out and to love each other,
got to have a mental health issue.
Yeah, your beautiful husband would say that is definitely mentally.
I think that's why he likes hanging out with all of us. He's secretly. I can't tell you how many times I've caught him writing in some secret book in the car on the way home from our dinners and stuff. And I'm like, "What's in that book?" Oh, nothing.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
I know that I have my own personal book for him, so because I'm.
Yeah. He's. I think he already left. He's got an early morning, but I'm glad you're here. Welcome back to
Ryan. I love you.
Thank you. I'll make sure he sees that. Everybody, before I forget and get sued, please help me welcome to the show my best gal, my sidekick, my female everything, and that is Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. She's been a little testy because I haven't been mentioning her as much as I usually do because she says I'm so infatuated with this, which is the Bell of Purpose. Of course, I had to bring this on with you. Jason's always teasing me about purpose. Mm-hmm. But the Bell of Purpose actually helps feed his needs today because, and happy birthday to Emily Seelman, everybody. Yeah. Let's show some love on the screen, get some hearts on the screen. It is Emily's birthday today. So actually, this is for her. Show some love. Hit those hearts, won't you please? So, Jason, so much has happened since the last time you were sitting across from me. Doing a Bathrobe Moments interview. And I want you guys, before I forget, to mark your calendar. Jason will also be joining us on the 10th of January. And welcome to the month of January, everybody. Happy January 1st. On the 10th, Wednesday, for Bathrobe Moments After Dark. So that's, if you've watched before, it's where we go a little deeper into some of the things that that we didn't get a chance to on a show like today. So mark your calendars, June 6th.
Let's not go back to January 1st.
Did I say January?
You did. It's June 1st.
I did?
Let's not. Okay. How about we not go back to January?
Right? Oh my God, that was
January.
That wasn't even Freudian. I will take that as my first senior moment of the day, of the first of a string of many, no doubt.
And before we get into everything, man, I just while you showed that video, it was hard for me to hold back tears of remembrance.
Me too.
And appreciation and gratitude for what you did and how you brought that all together. And all I could remember was my conversation and my hug of charisma. She was.
People still talk about that picture every time I post it somewhere.
She's amazing. And,
yeah.
So thank you for showing that. That was really, really beautiful.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that. I do every time I watch it. And if you guys want to see that more of that. With all of the speakers from the very first Power Week Symposium, just head over to my my site, which is LorenMichaelsHarris.com, and go under speakers and videos, and then you can watch all of those from the Power of We. So, Jason, let's get to it. What have you been up to since the first of the year? Let's just start from there. How you been dealing with this pandemic? Oh, Brian's still here. I was gonna say there. That's Brian. Paul, I told you to get out of here. I'm just kidding. You're early. I'm kidding.
Brian.
Jason's screaming out love notes to you.
Hi, Jason.
What are you camera ready, honey? Oh, he's gonna first time ever. Come say hello.
Hey, Jason, how are
Hello,
you?
brother. I love you, man. I miss you.
It's good to see you. I can't hear anything.
Oh yeah, he
Oh.
says I love you and I miss you.
Ah,
That's right. He couldn't hear anything. Sorry, honey. Okay, so I want to know. Well, let's start with this. Let's start with the Misfit Nation. I see now there are actual promos for the Misfit Nation. Talk about that. Who are these people, and what's been going on inside of that swimming pool since the onslaught of COVID-19? Have you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, as you know, I don't do my own events. I speak at a ton of them, right?
Right.
But I don't
Yes,
do
you
my
do.
own events.
Well, you
And-
can't say that anymore. You have Unstoppable.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you go back to the beginning of the year.
Okay.
What has been building, right? It's more of a mission because those of you that don't know me, I built several companies. I built a private equity business that held a bunch of companies, and then we started a consulting company, and we help a lot of companies. Which right now it's been crazy busy, man. Helping companies, they're taking the downtime to.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, to do all that stuff. So my company, my consulting company, Anton J Global, has been doing very, very well. But at the end of the day, the reason why Anton J Global exists was go back to all of the work I do in philanthropy and the trafficking of children that we do rescues and aftercare, and then the domestic violence stuff and the Feed a Billion. And the idea was, as I got into and passionate about those subjects, I realized that no matter how much money I made or how much money I was worth, I could not finance the entire, solving those issues by myself. And so we bring other people in, and then Anton J was structured to help good people make more money, get more time so they could do more good. And so we help companies that we know on their P&L are donating. Doesn't have to be all of the things that I care about, but if they have a giving heart, who you are, what you do in small things, you do in large things. And so if we could help them make more money. And then what we also decided was that people getting together really helps things too. I watched that happen with you, with the power of we and those types of things. And so I thought, let's do an event where we bring everybody together, and we have the moniker or the title of being the last live event before the zombie apocalypse, right? Also known as C19.
Right.
But we brought everybody together. We brought the business owners that we've helped, people that were wanting to increase their business skills. I brought the best speakers that I knew about those subjects. And we also brought the charities in, and they all got to meet each other and fall in love with each other. And so now businesses are directly connected to some really great founders. And that's been working out really well. 2019, we raised over $3 million for charity. And, that looks like, I don't know how it's going to be this year with C19, but we're pacing ahead of last year, actually, at this point. So that's what's been going on. And then, obviously my job as a leader is to add calm and understanding to situations. And so I did that through C19. I've been fighting a narrative and just letting people know that the greatest tool that they have is not a government that doesn't know what they're doing. It's the person looking them in their mirror, and calm down, because when you're freaking out, your immune system is compromised even more. Get yourself in shape, do the best that you can to keep yourself healthy. These types of messages, which get lost in the fray of every single thing that comes up now. As soon as it can, the Republicans and the Democrats grab it for their talking points and for power of division, which is opposite of the power of we.
Right. Exactly. Now, I'm sitting here listening, and there's so many things going through my mind because, we have, of course, C19 that we're dealing with, and now we have this other layer of civil unrest on top of it going on. But, really, these things are always and always have been in some shape or form amongst us. They just don't get as much attention, or they don't affect as many people as they are and happen to be right now. But I want to ask you, because I know I haven't been panicky at all. I haven't had one moment of it. Not in any way. And sometimes I sit back and go, what the hell? What's wrong with me? I'm in, with my asthma and stuff. I am in that group that they say is at risk.
Mm-hmm.
But I just haven't felt. I hold on to the IN words a lot for most. I always have since I was a little kid in the foster system. Excuse me, because it was the best place for me to run to. It was like when you were playing tag and you had that spot that was free. Yeah. Free, but nobody could get you. That's what I always look for. And so life was always a case study for me. So I think, because, Brian has asked me many times during the course of the last few months, are you scared? Are you nervous? And I'm like, no. And so I want you to talk about how, I know you're dealing with so many different people, especially with the Misfit Nation. And I'll never forget, I think a lot of it about why I've been so calm, and Brian will tell you, I said this way back at the beginning of it, on the front end of this thing. I said, I remember when Jason told me to see myself as the pilot of the plane. Mm. If the plane starts to go down, who out of everybody there has to stay calm? Ever since that you said that and those words hit my ear, I've been working towards mastering that concept, that mindset. And I'm telling you, I did not think it applied to my own personal world, but it applies there. And now I'm finding that it's easier for me to do it everywhere else. I needed something like this in order for me to have to reach for something. So I thank you for that. So tell me what you've seen.
I've seen your growth. I just want to acknowledge that just for a second. I mean, you and I have known each other for years now, and I've seen that growth in you, and I just wanted to acknowledge it. That the other thing that you're not giving yourself credit for, and that a lot of people in Misfit Nation have in common, is that we've been through trauma already, right? Mm-hmm. And we didn't have the world for us to divide into these different camps, like, C19's nothing or C19's the end of the world, right? We've had to be practical application white papers, right? And studies, right? That's what a white paper is. It's a study of something, and so. Trauma has two options. Trauma can damage you and make you bitter, or it can strengthen you and make you better. And so, a lot of us that have been through trauma are like, this is just life. These are things that are going to happen to us. This is not the end of our trauma. This is not the end of our challenges. These are just new ones, right? And
exactly.
And the base of it, Loren, comes down to, there's a scene. Did you ever watch that movie with Robert Redford in it called The Last Castle?
No, I haven't seen that.
Put it on your watch list.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, put it on your watch list, because it's an interesting story. It's a story about a general that takes responsibility for his men dying in the field. He goes to prison, right? Mm-hmm. And he, in the beginning, the warden is like, oh my God, this famous general is going to be, I can't wait to impress him. And he shows him all this stuff. So somehow he offends the guy, the warden, and the warden wants to teach him a lesson. And there's this scene that reminds me, and I want this to set the stage for the rest of our conversation, because I want everybody to understand that this is actually what's going on. Okay. And in the scene, he says, he's standing up in the thing, and he wants to make a statement of his power over the general, right? And Shelly's heard me say that multiple times. Hi, Shelly. But he wants to make a statement, right, of dominance over this obviously more powerful human being. And so what he does is, on the yard, you'll know this, you and I both spent some time behind bars, that on the yard, they put out so many basketballs, right? And what he did was he took all the basketballs out of the yard except for one, right? And the reason why he did that was, then what happened was, you see the black guy and the Hispanic guy get in a fight because there's only one basketball. There's not multiple basketballs to share. And so he takes all of them away. And he says, see how easy it is to manipulate men, because they ward over it, right? They ward over it. And so underlying all of this stuff, right? The C-19, the George Floyd situation, underlying it, those of us that can keep our eyes wide open, is that this is about dominance over a group of people so that we will fight each other. And I refuse to participate.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. And as a matter of fact, it's better than good. And we have a lot to talk about. And we're going to take a brief break. I want to get this out of the way so that we don't have any more interruptions. So when we come back in just 60 seconds, you guys, we're going to talk to Jason about how he has worked all that's happened since the onslaught of C-19 within his, not only his work organization, but his family dynamic. I'm interested in hearing that. So stay put, and we'll be right back. And we are almost back. I didn't know where you had gone, so I went ahead and hit a little bumper.
Well, you told me I could go get more coffee. So
I did. And okay. I could just see you in the throne room reading the paper or something. I'm like, no, get him. I never told you about the time way back at the beginning of Bathrobe Moments when a guy, I forget who he was. That was probably intentionally, but when we went live, he was actually sitting on the toilet. He thought I'm serious. He thought the show was bad. He said, but it's bathroom moments. I was like, no, it isn't. And I swear that happened. I think I deleted it off of my page at the time because everything was over on my page. Yeah, that really happened. I mean, he had a magazine and everything. And I was like, you know how I knew? Because I happened to see the back of the toilet and they had like a box of Kleenex on there and stuff. And I was like, and then I saw the little white tank. I was like, Lord. Anyway, so that happened. I'm wondering, I'm looking at my feed. I wonder what that is all about. Frozen over there on the screen over there.
Oh, it is frozen.
Do you see that?
Broadcast interrupted is what it says.
I don't know why. Oh, it says that on your screen?
Not on my phone.
I know, mine too. I'm gonna hit the refresh and see if it's still like that. It might not be. Okay. Oh wait. Hold on.
Looks like it kicked back off again. Maybe.
Kicked back off?
Let's see.
I know the weather's absolutely gorgeous where you're at. But Jason, I don't know if you've been experiencing that on your Mondays with Just Jason and stuff. It must be going again. The numbers are going back up. That's weird. Have you noticed any differences in your shows because of all this bumper to bumper internet traffic?
I have. Yeah, there's definitely been an interruption in traffic because everybody's home and everybody's online, right?
Right. Okay, now I think you're back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't want to start talking about anything important until we were live again, so we can scratch talking about your personal life now.
There you go.
You said something when I heard and when we were watching the clip from Power Week that you rarely talk about. So I thought this would be a great chance to use it as a segue. Inside that clip, you said your goal is to change the stars for your children.
Yep.
And so I know that's not a shared custody agreement where, you only mean that when things are great within the world. And it's, because parenting is never an easy job. but particularly so during something like this. Can you shed a little light on how I'm sure the conversation has evolved with your children as this thing has lasted? Because we were all on the front end. Oh, it's going to be over. I remember I was like, Brian, pandemic schmandemic. This thing will be forgotten by next week. Wait till the next star dies. You know, I thought some celebrity was going to die and that would be the end of it. No, they died, but we were still dealing with it. How does that happen? How has that developed and how has it changed? And is it different than the same conversation or than the conversation you have with the people in your organization, your friends?
It's not. I mean, look, I learned a long time ago. It was a really cool understanding for me. Somebody said it in passing, and I really took it seriously, which was, you know, that we have a will, right? We have what we're going to pass on to our children. And, you know, that means the physical things, the wealth or the house or the, you know, the knickknack from great grandfather or, you know, whatever it is that we're going to pass that on.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of work to do that legally through the, you know, and have the documents in line so that your family's not fighting when you're gone and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, I heard somebody say this from stage is that the true wealth that you're going to pass on to your children and to your family is going to be your legacy. Right. And so what I heard was, and I heard that. And so I started to shoot little videos, right. As things would come up, you know, here's how I would address this, right. Here's how the family Cisneros name. And it did two things for me. It made me realize that I was placed. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It made me realize that I was I had the opportunity for the first time in a long time in my family tree. Our family trees, our history is a lot alike, right? And so it was the first time that I was like, you know what, I can make the Cisneros name mean something, right? And even if it's just in my own family, I don't have Cisneros to look back on until I get like 7 or 8 generations now that I know I'm a Cisneros because I was adopted, you know, I was very young and I didn't know I was a Cisneros until much later in life. And at the end of the day, I took it seriously. I was like, you know what? My children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren need to have a place to establish their place in the world by having someone, right, put a stake in the ground to say, this is what our family name means, right? Here's what we stand for. So I started shooting little videos that are alongside of my will, so to speak, right? And certain lessons that to be, if you come across this, here's how I thought about it, right? Here's how we think in general. And a lot of that gets passed on and passed through the Misfit Nation and my lives and the Bald Avenger show. You know, a lot of that does get passed through, but it's establishing that legacy. And no matter what your family history has been,
right,
it will always be the new future, right?
Well said. That's so true. And I'm glad to hear you say that. Some of you are familiar, maybe not, but some of you are, because I recognize some of the names on the screen that were there. Just a few weeks ago, I actually did a special with 5 generations of men of color. I was the oldest, all the way down to a 12-year-old. Now, the reason I did that, and it wasn't because it only stuck with men of color, but I wanted to do something that specifically spoke to men of color because of not just the pandemic, but also what's going on with the civil unrest as far as, you know, all the looting. We all know the rioting and the deaths, because it's in the press, but it happens all the time. It's right. Not something that just, you know. So anyway, what I have seen is a lot of cultures don't talk about, or they talk about things one way with the older people in the family, and it's a different conversation than the conversation with the younger people in the family. And sometimes in the middle, there's no conversation at all. There's a disconnect. And the reason this matters to me so much now, and I asked the question for you, was because, you know, 3 weeks before the pandemic really exploded, my brother-in-law took his own life. And it wasn't until 3 weeks inside the pandemic, when people are freaking out all the millennials and whatnot in my family, and the young married couples and things, people with babies and just graduating, all those people started calling me for these. And I knew it was different than ever before because they were like stammering on how to start a real conversation, because it's always been like fun and games between me and they. Yeah. But this time it was different. And it was because I had not even realized that when Joe died, I was the next in line, believe it or not, as the patriarch, the oldest male in this family. And so that's when I started listening to conversations or having conversations, initiating ones that were different. So I know you have baby girl, we'll call her that. The conversations, and let's say dual, because I don't know if you've talked about the civil unrest with your kid yet, but I know most parents need to. So is that something that you've talked to them about, just like the pandemic, or do you wait until they come to you?
No, it's proactivity, right? And so there's those of you that don't know the term prepper. I'm a prepper. I have been for 10 years. And what that means is that that I have been gathering, weapons and food and property and making sure that I have water and a well and, so that I can take care of my family, because as the patriarch of my family, my job is to make sure that in any scenario that we're going to be okay. And so, you have to look at what is my perspective of what's happening. And you go back to my shows, as this thing started to kick off, I said it was a CTFD, calm the freak down, right?
I like that.
Yep. And so what it was telling people that this is going to be utilized as a weapon of manipulation. Beware of those things. Now, the C-19 is obviously real, right? But I was saying, here's the ramifications that's going to come because of it. And social and civil unrest was predicted by me, because it's not hard to predict if you read a history book, right? Is that when you see something and you start to see this civil unrest and you start to see these things, at the end of the day, yeah, right. And I've been able to say, and I hate the series of I told you so's that I have been, it's been right on, because again, I'm a historian. And so I look back and I say, you know what, the worst of this is going to be civil unrest. The worst of this is going to be starvation. The worst of this is going to be food shortage. The worst of this is going to be, these things. And I couldn't predict, nobody could predict what was the tinderbox that was going to kick off the civil unrest, right? Mm-hmm. And as you look at the cities, right, that this has kicked off in the hardest, it's those cities that had the hardest lockdown.
Right.
And so you can see all of these things start to tie together if your eyes are open to see, right? And if your heart and your mind is shut down because you want to be a Democrat or you want to be a Republican or you want to be, on any side of a narrative, you miss the truth. It passes you by. Mm-hmm. And so this civil unrest, is it going back to my children, is they're prepped, right? They are trained. What do we do? How do we escape? How do we lock down? Where do we go? Like what, here's what daddy, if we're separated, if something goes down, here's what'll happen. Here's the people that I have in line to grab you and bring you to me, right? There's all of these things that are put in place because I know history, and I know that the larger portion of humanity is never going to look at history. They're going to look at what's in front of their face, and they're going to be about themselves for the most part. And there's going to be a small percentage, just like what started this amazing country, right? There's going to be a small a group of men and women who sacrifice everything to make sure that freedom reigns.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I got to say, you came through a different door, but you brought the same carryout with you. And that's exactly why we had generational healing, the thing with the 5 guys that I was mentioning. And we're doing one in June, 3rd week, with 5 women from across the country of varying ages. I think the oldest is almost 80, all the way down to a teen girl, to get that same conversation, because their voices will be different, because they will be somewhat inside of the relaxing of the lockdown. So they'll have a different narrative. But I do want to ask you this, or put this out there, because I believed the exact same thing all along. And I've always attested that what I believe is going on with this entire experience is that it is the great equalizer. That's what I refer to it as, the great equalizer, because it allows us to see. Now, tell me about this. This is really interesting, and I know you can speak to this probably more than most people. But inside of the Misfit Nation is just another example of what we all have in our own world. Our friends, our family members, our colleagues, our neighbors, things like that. Now, when this started, I immediately started seeing different attitudes that I would have never seen from other people. Now, I know I watched closely because I was like, this is going to be interesting to see how people that do what we do, where they're going to go, what road. And I watched you in particular because I know you don't have a filter. Any damn thing going to come out your mouth. And I'm kind of that way too. So I was going like that. I was watching everything like this. And I was telling Brian, ooh, Jason's pissing off a lot of his followers. And I watched in the thread where some people were like, what? Because they misunderstood. They thought you were saying, take this ain't shit. But you weren't saying that, but it was too soon for them. They were getting it in so many directions that panic and fear ruled the day. And we all know that there's only two sponsoring thoughts. Those are the sponsoring seeds. When you throw them in the air, you blow them like a dandelion, that's what's going to land. So it's either fear or love of something greater than yourself. So talk about how that made you feel, because you know what I'm talking about.
100%.
I watched it, and I said, oh, look at them. They're trying to throw tantrums.
Yeah.
And Jason's followers are throwing tantrums. What did that mean to you? What did you see it as?
Well, it's predictable, right? Again, because when you take the position that is right, and remember, I'm not, when there's two sides of the equation. There is principle, and then there's Jason's opinion. Okay. And Jason's opinion doesn't mean shit, right? It doesn't mean anything except for as it's attached to my perspective and my life history, right? Those of us that are running around going, you have to understand my life. You have to understand. You can never understand what it's like to be Black. You can never understand. And I'm never going to try to understand, right? Because I don't need to understand Loren Harris and his experience in his skin, because it's the dumbest thing that you can judge him by, right? Now, this is the problem, right? When you're talking about leadership and you're talking about, you want to talk about what I was thinking, leadership is not in need of sycophants, okay? Leadership is in need of saying what's true so that the behaviors line up with a better outcome for the people that he or she is associating themselves to, okay? And so when you look at all of this and you look at, I was going down a path there, but anyway, so the idea is that when people are out there screaming about the idea, Jason, you're never going to understand what it's like to be Black. Yes. And why should I? I don't need to, because what you just said was so powerful. My leading thought process is love. When I met you, I fell instantly in love with you, right? And then and our relationship has been tested at multiple times, for different reasons and different inputs and different things. And at the end of the day, I started out loving you, right? If I started out judging you by something as stupid as your skin color, which now we're flip-flopping it, you had the entire world that was supporting the idea that this murder of George Floyd was wrong. You had the entire world. Right. And anybody that didn't was an idiot anyway.
Right.
And so but you had the entire world. And then selfish people started to inject the fact that they started attacking white people that were supporting them, because they were saying, you'll never understand this. Where were you before? Where were you doing this? They were doing their own lives, just like you were, just like I was, just like everybody was. Right? There's times in history where you come together and you leverage. Martin Luther King was backed by millions of whites, right?
Couldn't have done what he did.
Could not have done what he did unless it was millions of whites. The South would not have been freed was it not for the sacrificial partnership with the family of Black and white coming together. Right? Harriet Tubbs, who did she work with?
Right.
W.E. Du Bois. Right. Anybody that knows their Black history knows that he was the first graduate of Harvard and he started the NAACP. right? He could not have done what he did without the support and the lifting up and the celebration of the idea that we are not our skin color, right? You go through Booker T. Washington, Malcolm,
all of them,
all of them. Like, you go through
all of them.
And I studied them because I viewed myself, and I viewed myself when I was coming out of my youth. I viewed myself as a set upon, right? I viewed myself as separate than, because I was poor, right? I didn't have I was adopted. I didn't have anybody backing me, like all of that stuff. And I looked at the Black situation and I thought to myself, that's me, right? That's me. And so I studied them, and I studied Mahatma Gandhi.
And see, that's exactly what I was saying earlier about everything being a case study. It wasn't as intricately laid out when I was a kid as it is today, as far as, really knowing why to go in. But I'm gonna tell you something. Let's talk about these foundational building blocks, because I was watching. I know some of the people that were falling off from Misfit Nation and this and the other, because I kind of been watching from the green room for a while, studying it and this and the other since you started drawing people in, because I always wondered, can you recruit Misfit Nation, or are they drawn by that force known as law of attraction, frequency? Because you have to hear the truth somewhere, because it's like a silent dog whistle, and the truth has a ring to it. It's true. So that's what primarily draws people, I think, organically. But the foundational building blocks, for instance, I saw a post yesterday by a Black woman that I go to Rotary with, who I thought all along, well, she's Black, but she don't know she's Black. She forgot she was Black until I read her post yesterday about her son and daughter being at home, sheltering in place, leaving their apartments on the East Coast. And these kids went to Ivy League schools, this and the other. And she said, my son just came in, my 28-year-old son just came into the room where his father and I are sharing an office at home, and announced that he was going for a run. She goes, when the three of us locked eyes, there was no confusing the fear between all of us. But he came over and kissed me on the cheek, and I said, hurry home, da, 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 da. When really my husband and I stared at each other for what felt like another 10 minutes, wondering, could this be the last time we see him? And she goes, it shouldn't be that way. And the way the road she wrote that out on just had Brian and I in tears. And I felt really bad about the fact that I'm just as bad as anyone else who is prejudging anyone. And it made me, so the reason I got something from this entire thing, if this thing hadn't been happening, she wouldn't have posted it and I wouldn't have gotten yesterday, was because it all starts and begins with the individual. With the individual. And, I remember my birth mother, Lucille, said to me a couple months after I met her, we were sitting at her house, and she said, I think you're going to be on Maury Povich one day. And I was like, for real? And she said, yeah. And the show will be, I hate my own race. I was like, excuse me? But she saw then the way, because she lived in the hood and I didn't think that I did. And I wanted to get as far away from anything that smelled like foster care and all these different things. But really, it's those foundational building blocks. How you see the world is based on how you see yourself, because you see yourself first thing every morning. When you go in, you pee or whatever, and you go straight to the mirror. You stand up there, you look, because you got, So tell me, Jason.
And you only have two choices. You're either a victim or you're a victor, right? I didn't coin that. Somebody else did.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when you're looking at that person in the mirror, if you're a victim, you're looking for excuses to hate people, whether you believe that or not, right? When you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're a victim, you're looking for people to hate because you don't feel loved yourself or lovable yourself. And you're looking at yourself, and people that are looking at their mirror and themselves in the mirror, and they are a victim, they think that the world is hating them. And it's exactly the opposite. We're looking for people to hate. I saw my Black brothers and sisters and my white brothers and sisters fight when you've got white people that are going, oh my God, we're on your side, we want to help you. And my Black brothers and sisters attacking them, going, you know what, you can never understand this. You're part of the problem. And I'm going, why are you kicking yourself in the proverbial balls by people that love you and support this movement. Why would you do this? We have 8 people dead, Loren. We have 8 people dead from the riots that are happening, right? You have what happened to George Floyd, which was murder, and everybody knows it, and that guy should get killed the same exact way that he killed that person, right?
Wow.
In the middle, you have peaceful protesters that I've seen multiple ones, the guys that took a knee, right? The people that laid on the ground. Like, you have those peaceful, and then you have the anarchists and the people that want to foment hatred. Okay. And those people are taking over the movement. They're dishonoring George's life, right? His own girlfriend, who, no matter how much you want to be selfish and make this about yourself, no one is closer than he was to his own girlfriend. And she said his heart would be breaking if he saw cities burning in his name.
See, I'm gonna say, and it really boils down to the individual, because the one last thing I'm going to say about yesterday, Brian and I got in the car and we drove downtown Naperville because we were really going to check out what we saw on a neighborhood app about everybody's downtown with no masks on and this and the other. And we wanted to see how we would feel if we drove through there. Would there be that pull? Oh, look, outdoor dining. Oh, don't you miss it? Let's go. That doesn't look so bad, or that looks, and we did go through that vetting process. But the thing that stood out to me was we were at a stoplight and there was a white kid, probably 22, 23, mask on, holding a sign that said Black Lives Matter. And we were right across from him at the light. And I could feel his eyes on me. And Brian said, honey, that guy's looking at you. I said, I know it. And I'm looking straight forward. He goes, well, why won't you acknowledge him? He's waiting for you to look at him. And I did. And he nodded his head. And I couldn't understand. Why does that make me uncomfortable? Why do I feel like is it because I'm afraid that to have that connection, because it must mean that now there's some obligation for me? So, why aren't I standing out there holding the sign, and why is it you? There's all these questions. So
because guilt and shame is being used as a weapon very well these days.
So talk about that. Let that be your Jerry Springer thought, because that's a real thing.
Well, here, let me put it this way. You know me for a while now, right?
Yes.
And one of the things, every project that you and I have worked on together, what do I start out with? What's the outcome?
Right.
What do we want to see, right? And then what do? We build backwards, whether that was the power of we, or whether that was your show, or whatever it is. It's always, Loren, let's sit down. What do you want? What do you see? What do you want to build? What is that end state? And then we do what? We build backwards, and we start with what action we can take today.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question that I've been asking multiple people, the leaders in the Black community. What and how? What does the end of police brutality and what does the end of racism look like?
What does it look like?
I asked the question for this reason, okay? Because if nobody has painted a picture of what the end state is, nobody is, right? Nobody has. There's no statement of saying, you know what, here's what we need to do. We need to do this training. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to do this. There is and how can I, right, as a white person, and I've been called racist this week more than I ever have before in my entire life, with people forgetting the fact that 90+% of the little girls and little boys that we pull out of sex trafficking and putting our lives on the line are little boys and little girls of color, right? You've known me for a while. I don't know if you've ever seen a hint of racism in me, because I don't see color. I see competence, right? I don't see color. And so when we talk about leadership, what does that look like? How do you end police brutality? And people, the most selfish people that are out there are saying, we need a revolution. For what? Most all revolutions end up with, just think about this country's exit from our Britain overlords, right? There was an idea of a better nation, of freedom. And here's what it looks like. We have to reestablish our own government. We have to do this. We have to put these things in place. We have to put townships in. We have to have a tax base. We have to do all of these things that had a vision to it, by people that would sit down non-emotionally and build it. Okay. So we've had for years and years, and I watched an interaction between two older, it was a 45-year-old black man, it was a 31-year-old black man, and it was a 16-year-old black young man. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they were having a conversation, and one of them was very upset. The other one was upset and wanted to tear down the whole system. One of them was saying, we've been doing this wrong. And he went to the 16-year-old boy, put his hand on his chest, and he said, your generation needs to step up and do this differently. And I'm screaming out to the youth. I'm screaming out to anybody that will hear that you've got to show what it is that you want to build. Because unless you do, you can't take the steps that will get you there.
Well, and that's absolutely right. I think that every year on Martin Luther King's birthday, when the internet is flooded with little black boys and girls who are on a stage somewhere in an elementary or middle school reciting the "I Have a Dream" monologue, and I feel like Martin wanted us and all the others' shoulders that we stand on as a people, and I say this as a man of color, is people. A lot of us use what our ancestors laid, that foundation, as the end all to everything. Instead of picking it up, it was a baton, like in a relay race, that was to be passed forward, which is exactly what you were just describing. And I feel that a lot of us understand that, but we understand it too late, because the conversation is only picked up when it went in times like these. That's why I say, every time Brian goes, "Oh my God, another city," I was just talking about the riots, and he's, in another room watching the news and then reporting to me. And I was, "Honey, why do you sound so surprised? This happens all the time. It just doesn't make the news. It just doesn't get it's not sensationalized like it is right now, but it is a constant thing."
It's for lack of leadership, because our ancestors, I look at it like a bank account, right? Our ancestors invested with their blood and their treasure to create a freedom that was free of racism, that was free of judgment, that would create and pen such an excellent document that would say that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That that the governing, right, governs at the consent of the governed, that they would create a more perfect union, right? That these are the things that would be built. And for lack of leadership, which I look at Martin Luther King as one of the very last investors in the future, right? Because then you had people that came after him, and you have people that are like, "Oh, my family built up this wealth." I see it all the time in business, is that the second or third generation just takes and takes and takes and takes and forgets that they're there to build upon that message to make things better for progress, right? Progressives are almost, when you call yourself a progressive, and you aren't building on the legacy of a Martin Luther King, who I love. I can recite that I had a dream. And do you know, here's the thing that most people don't understand. Go back and read the Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, and almost, and I would have to go back, and because there's a couple of vague things in there, but almost every word of his speech has come true.
Right.
For people of color.
That's right.
And
that's the issue.
And now you have a bunch of entitled, right? You want to talk about entitled. You have a bunch of entitled people going, we got to, whatever the thing is, but there's a lot of selfishness in the movement right now that would make it okay to beat a white shop owner because he's standing in front of his shop for the color of his skin and leave him half dead on the concrete. Right? That they would pull somebody because of their skin color out of a truck because
that's what I was going to say. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing as Rodney King. How is that okay? You want to get upset and the world wants to burn down over Rodney King, but not the man that they pulled out of the truck yesterday.
Exactly.
Color, that's racism.
Well, and here's exact. I agree. I'm ringing the bell of purpose. I will say this. I believe that, again, it boils down to where you start. And you have to start within yourself in order to then make your way to everything outside of you, where the conversations in your own family dynamic, in your own neighborhood, in your own community, and so on and so forth. It's exponential. And I really do believe that, because a person, they're going to see, if you can't see it in yourself, how are you? And that means the good, the not so good, the things that you point to other people about. Do you go looking for that in your own eye or not? And I really believe that's why it just keeps perpetuating. Oh, it's like it's like a thing that just like a tumbleweed, just keeps blowing around and picking up and growing because of that very mindset. So we've gone over, but I don't give a damn. We're just gonna,
this is important, Loren, and I want, before the thought escapes my mind, I just want, for whoever to hear it. Look, you're either causing suffering or you're easing it, right? And a lot of the wars that you see happening on Facebook are people that are so incredibly selfish that they can't see through their own selfishness, fear, and self-loathing, right? And so what I'm looking for and what the world is looking for in me is action. What action can I take, right?
That's it.
And I do what I can. And so people, when I speak up and I say, somebody show me the path, you know me, brother. You know that I will take up arms against anybody that thinks George Floyd's life was necessarily taken. I believe that was murder in our face. Okay. Yes. It also doesn't overshadow the fact that more whites are killed by police officers by double than blacks are, right? It doesn't change the fact that white on crime is in 2018, and you can go to the statistics. Black on white crime was in the 500,000s, and white on black crime was 40,000 or less. And you can't have a conversation until you understand the baseline. And you got to look at, how do you end racism? And if there's no answer to it, then how do we build protection around it? Because at the end of the day, let me ask you a specific question. I really want to know your answer on this. Okay. Is this world ever going to be rid of stupid people?
No.
Okay. And the most stupid thing that you can do is judge another human being by the color of their skin. So how do you legislate against stupidity?
Well, Jason, racism, I think, has been painted into a corner where, when most of us think of racism, we think of color-based.
Yes.
And it's not just that. I mean, as a gay man, I feel that that's a form of racism. The way the homeless is looked at and treated. Because when you're homeless, you feel a part of that community. And I've been homeless, and I know what it felt like to be in that community. I saw people step over the invisible, turn away from the whatever they didn't want to or could not look at. And I feel that if we just ask the question, questions lead to conversations. And the question should be for all of us, what I think I heard yesterday, what I know I heard when I read that woman's post. It made me automatically think to the things that had come out of my mouth or in my mind about her, prejudging her based on her color. She doesn't think she's black. So I'm being racist to my own people, something my mom said 37 years ago. And so the question flew in to the hopper yesterday for me. What can I do as a result of this experience to become better? How can I be better from what I just realized? If I just work on one thing within myself, and we all did that, there'd be over 1 billion betterments. And I just made that word up, I think. But you see what I'm saying?
100%, brother. And people sit around, and the most selfish thing you can do is to sit around and consider only yourself, right? Leadership and I did a show last night on servant leadership, right? And what were the components of it? And people are like, okay, I can't imagine being a black parent with a black child and being worried about them jogging. But what I can do is I can be a white parent, right? Or I'm not even white, but for whatever, my skin tone means something to a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I look at, okay, if my daughter is suiting up to go for a jog or go ride her bike, one of the fastest growing crimes in the world is trafficking of young little girls in the world. It's the fastest growing crime in the world. It is there's 10 million children in slavery today being used for horrific purposes. And so I have to fear when my child goes out that she might get swiped up into a van, right? I have to think about those things. I have to think about, what happens when if my son who isn't black walks through the wrong black neighborhood at night, right? What would happen? Would you take Brian? We're having an honest conversation here, right?
Right.
Are there parts of Chicago that you would not take Brian walking down the street holding hands after let's say 9 p.m.
Absolutely. And there are places that I go, he admitted yesterday, that scare him.
Right.
In this community.
Why I'm saying all of this, right? And this is why what people that don't dig any deeper into who I am or my message, why I'm saying all of this is because there's things that parents are concerned about with their children,
right?
No matter what color of skin you have, right? And it's all unfair. It's all unfair, but there is no such thing written in the Bible or whatever it is that says that the world is going to be fair. There's nowhere that it says it's going to be fair. What it says is for you to be fair-minded.
And that's what we're striving for.
Yes.
When you see things that aren't, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to look for it. So as we round it, let's take 4 more minutes. Jason, what do you feel right now where we're at, because we're far from this being over in any direction, whether we're talking C-19, whether we're talking what could happen in the fall.
When it's going to go away? I'm just going to predict it on your show so we can come back and revisit it. C-19 and social and civil unrest and race baiting division type activities. All of that stuff's going to go away November 6th.
Election week.
Yeah, because remember back to last election when there was such bad race relations and there was riots and there was all this kind of stuff, and poof, it was gone. These things, I want to end your show with letting people know, if you're black, I love you. If you're brown, I love you. If you're white, I love you. If you're male or female or gay or lesbian or straight or married or single or whatever it is, I begin in the place of love. You can choose to hate me, but you lose a really great friend, right? You can choose to hate me. I don't mind that. But what I will not do is keep my mouth silent when I see a purposeful and structured look. These people, you see people that are saying that 80% of the people that are lighting these fires and burning your communities down were from out of state. They were ready to go. They knew, because I knew, as I was predicting in my show, that when you lock people down and you've got fear and you start messing with the food chain and you start doing all these kind of things, that eventually that's going to lead to social unrest. This was all prepared for ahead of time for whatever light or tinderbox. George Floyd just happened to be the spark that lit it. You have people that genuinely care and want to peacefully protest. I'm with you. You have every resource that I have to support you. Now you have, on the other side of that, you have the people that want to foment you and I hating each other. And you can't make me hate you. You can't make me hate you. If you're abusing children, if you're abusing your wife, you think about all these things. Why is the world not burning down, Loren, for 10 million children being raped?
I'll tell you why. I have an answer for that. I deal with it all the time. And you'll remember when the city of Inglewood, and I told them I would always use their name in conjunction to this piece of the story for Power We, because if you didn't want me to tell it, you shouldn't have fucking wrote it.
Amen.
That's how I feel about it. And I still, to this day, see it at least once a week. And I'm talking about the 120 silver chairs that were stacked in the back in the kitchen from Power We the first year, because we got it all set up for them to have transportation, and they couldn't even find chaperones that would leave whatever they were doing to get those 120 kids to that event. So I'm going to tell you what I think it is. I think what it is nobody giving up about much other than themselves. Seriously. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. I mean, this isn't happening just with Floyd. It isn't just, it's happening all the time. So again, back to the original question, what can I do to make what I'm striving to leave? And also, I believe, Jason, this is what I really believe. This is just my own opinion.
Yep.
But I really believe that people that cannot summon the courage to look over their shoulder, to go back and remember themselves to those hardest times in their own lives, not because of the event, but because of the person that represented you within that event. I'm speaking to the 12-year-old Jason, the 8-year-old Jason, the Jason that you spoke of in your clip that we watched that said, I'd had my nose broken 18 times. That's 18 different little versions of you that stood up and took a fist from an adult man that they shouldn't have. That guy, that little Jason, got you, built you into the person you are today. You're standing on every one of those little ones' shoulders.
Amen.
And if you can't acknowledge the shoulders of your own personal ancestry, you're not going to look for the people in your bloodline like you found out. You're not going to acknowledge them and pick their story up and carry it forward. Then you're not going to go to the people outside of your family, the Rosa Parkses, the Martin Luther King. So you will never get those who did all the things we read about. Yep. If you don't get the ones that we don't get to read about, because you don't get the one who you're supposed to be writing for. And that's yourself.
So let me tell you what I've seen, and to answer your question, let me tell you what I've seen that we should do. Okay, when I see in these cities, and I get goosebumps when I know I'm about to say something that ain't from me, right? Yep. Is what I've seen in these other cities is I've watched the Black community surround and guard their white police officers when they're being jumped. Mm-hmm. I've seen the citizens stand in front of shops that weren't theirs to protect the businesses of the businesses that were providing the vital financial ability for their citizens to be able to live and feed their family, because they see, why are there pallets laying around conveniently right in front of the biggest windows? Mm-hmm. Because somebody is manipulating you, right? Mm-hmm. And watching the young Black man on Twitter that was videoing, and he goes, y'all, this is pallets of bricks. Who put these pallets of bricks here? You ain't gonna trick me, right? This is a setup. That's what he said. These people, our people are smart, and they're beginning to band together because the people burning your communities are from outside of your community, and burning your community doesn't do a damn bit of good for George Floyd's memory, right? Changing the establishment and making sure that we put representatives that believe as we do, people that are committed to easing suffering, into positions of I want to end it this way, brother, is the only way you change the world is through financial influence or intellectual influence. Mm-hmm. Those are the only two ways. Mm-hmm. And so I'm here. If you are in the city, if you're Black, if you're white, if you're Hispanic, if you're whatever it is, my mission is to make good people wealthy so that we can impact this world. That's why Anton J Global exists.
Makes a lot of sense. And I want you guys, as we get out of here, to really, you heard us say here, and I say it at least once a day. I believe that this time that we're living in is the great equalizer. It gives every single human being everywhere in this world the opportunity to stop for a moment and ask, what am I doing? Because it's not just today, but this is the perfect time to decide what kind of world you want to live in on the other side of this experience.
Where's my bell?
Bing, bing, it's the truth. That's and you can't get to that if you're currently living within fear. You cannot get to a future plan, a call to action, all the things because fear brings everything in. It holds everything down. It stuffs it down. It doesn't let it out. When a person is brought back to life with the paddles, their body lurches out. When a person has been drowning and you're breathing the breath of life into them and they come back, their body goes like this. That's why every heartbeat on every monitor doesn't start with the spike going down. The line comes out and it goes up because that's the first place we must reach toward, up.
Yep.
Every single time. And when it comes to people pointing and looking at themselves, it's the hardest decision in the universe.
It's the hardest decision, and it's the most rewarding, right? You asked, and I'll finish with this one. You said, I noticed that, that Misfit Nation people were getting pissed off at you. Anybody that thought that that we began Misfit Nation, or that I am a person who needs your acceptance, is sadly mistaken, right? It's people that do exactly what you just said. Why you and I are brothers is because you have looked yourself in the mirror at very harsh times and we've been angry at each other, right? We have screamed at each other. We have hung up the phone on each other. We've refused to speak to each other, right? Because at the end of the day, my job in your life and your job in my life is to be a mirror of what needs to shift so that we can up-level our service to humanity.
That's right.
I'm proud of you each and every time you've done it. I'm proud of our friendship. I'm proud of we're family, and I'm proud of that relationship. But anybody that thinks that I am one of those people, you watch this, the influencers disappeared at the beginning of C19. Right? They disappeared. They're not offering leadership. They're not offering guidance because their leadership and their influence was based on conning you out of your money.
Thank you.
For their bullshit strategies that they read in a book, and their marketing was really good. And they thought, here's the easy pill. They were selling the easy pill. There ain't no easy pill.
Right.
19. There ain't no easy
pill.
Pill.
Great equalizer. That's what I meant. Right.
To the George Floyd situation. There ain't no easy pill to the underlying manipulation that is happening to all of us by people who want to control us. We need to make money. We need to educate ourselves. We need to make ourselves more intelligent. We need to build communities of mixed races that cannot be separated for the rest of their life because they're joined in love and service.
That's right.
Needs to
That's
happen.
right. It's time, in my opinion, that the foundational tiles of our societies, of our communities, of our internal family dynamics, the grout that goes between those tiles needs to be one thing, LOVE, because that is the only word that unconditional really connects to.
Amen.
And that's love. It's unconditional.
Amen.
And, and that's a thing, it's like common sense, one of those terms that it doesn't make sense. It's like an oxymoron. If common sense was common, why the hell aren't more people using it?
Right.
Think about that, everyone. Jason, listen, we're going to pick this conversation up and go even further. So mark your calendars now, won't you please, for Bathrobe Moments After Dark. You can find it right where you found us today. And that's for June 10th at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we'll be here and we're going to pick back up. Jason, as always, it's a true pleasure. Thank you. And I want to ask you before we get out of here, the thing about Misfit Nation, that question about just that, because I know a lot of people were thinking it, but I knew, I had a feeling not many were going to bring it up to your face. And, and I watched it because I told Brian at the beginning, I said, no, Jason's there's something, you don't do anything without there being an outcome.
Right.
And so I just got to sit back and watch it. And once I watched it and understood it, then it was time to get on the horn and say, hey, do you want to come here on Bathrobe Moments? Because I thought I'm honored to be the platform where you can talk about that. So again, I want you guys to go back, and it might be a great time to go back and hit some of the replays from Jason's shows and stuff. And Jason, if they wanted to do that to catch up some of the stuff that you've been laying out there since the onslaught of C19, where would be the best place for people to go to catch that content?
At the Bald Avenger at the Bald Avenger on Facebook is where it's where most of that stuff is gathered. But we also have the baldavengershow.com.
Okay.
You can look on YouTube. We don't do much on YouTube, but you can look on YouTube, and then it's on all of iTunes and iHeartRadio and all the things and the places. But if you want to join the community, and this is what Misfit, this is the call to action, because in Misfit Nation we have a plan. right? We have a plan, and it may not, and again, it may not end trafficking in our lifetime. It may not end a woman being beaten every 11 minutes in domestic violence. It may not end every 4 seconds somebody dying of starvation in this world. It may not end racism, but we can impact by joining around the power of love. And that is what Misfit Nation stands for. And if you can't look yourself in the mirror, you don't belong, and you will be radically flushed out of our system, because you cannot stand the fire in Misfit Nation. You cannot stand the fire in Misfit Nation if you refuse to look at yourself in the mirror.
And you know what it all boils down to? Because I've been a part of Misfit Nation since the very beginning of it, pretty much. And I'll tell you something. What made it such an easy decision for me? Because I didn't have to decide. I didn't have to decide whether I felt good about the title or not. I wore it as a badge of honor, because it's not about the beginning of the race. It's about how you run the race and how you plan on finishing the race. So, again, if you're not okay with your own, you can't look at Misfit Nation as a scarlet letter.
Right.
You have to look at it as a badge of honor. You earned it, because when you go through something, you now come out the other side, and now you have grown, because you grow through it to get through it. And it's not about walls of opportunity. Those don't exist. So when people tell you, get over it, get around it, find a way from underneath it, tell them to fuck themselves, because that will never happen. I've never heard of a wall of opportunity. I've only heard of doors and windows. And why is it a door or window of opportunity? Because everything you can see through, you know that you can see the way. That means you can get through it. You don't have to get around it. That's an angle.
Yep.
How many of us? That's why a lot of influencers disappeared. They came on once or twice trying to do what we do every day, but they couldn't pull it off. Why? Because they didn't feel authentic. And they could feel the eyes and ears of the world watching them and going,
yeah,
for real? Yeah. Right or wrong?
You 100%. You and I have been saying the same shit every single day, for years now. And it's who we are, right? It's who we are. And that doesn't make us any better than anybody else.
No.
That's what we're saying. But what it's saying is that maybe before you decide that you're going to invest in a mentor, you want to find one that speaks truth, because it won't feel good.
And it won't produce.
Nope.
It will bear fruit that is in the same bloodline as the original thought.
Yeah.
Because that thought became the word, that word became the action, and that action garnered the results.
That's right.
So, if you can't see it in yourself, that's the only way you can be tricked on the outside. When you said about the burnings of communities, who was coming in and doing it? Outside. Stick to the IN words, people. Insight, integrity, internal, instinct. Yep. Everything that can be protected only by you is within you. Everything outside of you means somebody else has a hand or a say-so in it. Start with the internals. Go ahead.
You've handed that your power. You're putting yourself on a leash when you give somebody else the power to control you through being angry at other people because of their race,
right?
Because of their financial position,
right?
Band together. Misfit Nation is a place for you. Thank you again. You're a vital piece of that. You're a leader. Within it, you're somebody that shows and gives an example of what it looks like. Messy progress.
Got that right. I thank you so much, Jason.
I love you, brother.
I love you as well. And again, happy birthday to Miss Emily today. And June 1st, happy June 1st to all of you. And listen, mark your calendar now. Put a Post-it note on a window, a visor, a mirror, wherever you need to, so you get back here at 7 p.m. on June 10th, where Jason will be my guest for Bathrobe Moments After Dark, and we'll keep this dialogue going. Jason, have a blessed day. Continue to be the blessing, and that goes for all of you. Remember, you can never even think about being the blessing if you don't look in the mirror and see the blessing. I'm Loren Michaels Harris. Thank you for joining me for this extended version of Bathrobe Moments. Bye, Jason.
Bye-bye.